Good morning and welcome back to Plannercraft. I'm Natalie and today we are going to be finishing off the project from yesterday. So this was where we were doing the comparison between the ScanNCut and the Silhouette, and as you can see we ended up with 3 different ways to do print and cut. So we have our Silhouette sheet with our registration marks. We have the Affinity one that we've done on stream where we added our little square registration marks, and after stream I also managed to do the Illustrator one, so I had to go back to the old version of Illustrator to get it to work. So that must be an update issue, so hopefully that can sort itself out. Now I've just noticed it missed a bit of me area, which is a little bit annoying, so I'll see if I can sort that in a bit. So first of all I'm going to set that to one side, and if I get round to doing that one at the end I will do. I wanted to show you a little cheat, so I'm going to go to the Affinity one. So if I open up the Affinity document and change the display, and let's say that you are working with some images. They need to have a transparent background but are a bit too light on the edge to scan, so maybe something in the leaves here. Then what we can do is we can actually put an outline on really quickly without having to do a path. So this isn't going to give you a cut line per se where you can send it to the machine. This is to make scanning using direct cut easier. You're going to select your layer with all your print items on. You're going to go to Effects. Okay. And what we're then going to do is we're going to go to Outline. And then we can set how much of an outline we want. So you don't need too much for the ScanNCut to pick it up. And then we can choose how we want to actually colour it. So if you don't want to have a black line showing, what you can do is choose something that's going to actually blend in with your design. So we have the little eyedropper just here, so if we click and drag that eyedropper we can drop it anywhere on our display. So if we go, okay, let's take that orange there, then we'll click back on that circle and you can see that that outline goes to that orange. Now if you wanted to do a different colour for each piece, all you've got to do is apply that effect instead on a per image basis. But there you go, that's a little quick cheat to help you do your direct cutting, so that's a really good one to learn. Okay. And let's just go back to overhead for a moment so I can just see what the little ding of a comment was. So hi Deb, hi Michelle, and hopefully it will catch back up in a minute. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is actually cut these out so that we have our 2 pieces to compare. So, Silhouette first, we're going to need a Silhouette mat. So those of you that watched the comparison video that I did between the Silhouette and the ScanNCut will realise that our Silhouette mat is quite a bit smaller, much easier to work with when you have limited desk space. And we are going to put that onto on that. Now what I am going to do is just very quickly have the file open as well. So come on, open. Just thinking about it, it's because it's got to pull it down off the internet. When it does, it'll be alright. It's just the getting it there. Come on. Okay, while that's downloading. So it can be a little bit harder to see where you're going because it's a transparent mat. So if I just grab my artistic mat, I'm just going to pop it underneath so you can see the mat a little bit clearer. There you go. And you can load it either way up, it doesn't make any difference, you'll be pleased to know. And it's going to be square to the top. Okay, let's go over here. So it is going to expect to see it in this top corner, like so. So this edge is going to load into our machine. Just want to try and make sure that I press everything down well, just because these were printed yesterday, so they've had the opportunity to curl a little bit. Okay, this is going to ding lots now, isn't it? So let's see if I can just mute that for a minute. Hi Carol, hi Linda. Oh, sorry to hear that you missed the live yesterday, but good to see that you're all caught up. So let's pull out our other bits and pieces that we've set aside for our project, because next I'm going to swing that round there, and hopefully if I go to Silhouette, we're almost there, there we go. So the power button's on this side, so we're going to wake it up and lift our flap, and with the mat now. Before I go too far, last thing I did was a roll feeder, so I can see that my roller here is in the wrong place. It needs to be in this outer position just here. Nice and easy. We're going to lower that lever, rotate the roller so that you can see your little grey lock button. We're going to press that in, and then we can drag that out, and it's going to latch into place. So you're going to feel like a little snap. When that's latched and it's not going anywhere, we're going to lift that latch back up, and that's going to lower our rollers so they're ready to go. So now, this is where you need kind of a steady hand. Because you want to line up your mat so that it's onto this line here. Make sure your roller is in contact with your mat this side too. Load it in. And then typically what I do is I'll just push it in a little bit further using my arrow keys on the machine. So basically these arrow keys here control where that cut head is. Okay. So if I was just cutting without having the registration marks, what I would do is just nudge that cut head back across the little onto our mat. Okay. And let's go to the Silhouette. Going to go to display. So we're in Silhouette Studio. We've got our file open that we had before, and we want to send it to the machine. Okay. We can see the machine, so that's a good start. So always check that you've got the little green ready down there. And then what we do need to change is our material, because we're definitely not using HTV anymore. We're going to be using cardstock. And if you notice that your blade hasn't changed, it's probably that that setting has that for blade. And let me just see if I set up a custom one for the card that I'm using, because you can do that. So we have a little user defined section down here. So you can see that we've got a few different ones, none of which are matching what I've got, so I can go back to my cardstock and I can just alter that. So I'm just going to take the blade up. So if we click and drag, we can change that number. Okay, might even take it up to 6. Now with the force and the speed, what I tend to do is leave that set according to what the material is. If you are finding that you're getting snags in your corners, what you can do is use this function just here, and that's where your cut line actually extends past your corner point, and then when it starts the next line, it starts before that point, so that hopefully you should get a neater finish on those corners. So whereas your scan and cut, what it will do is canvas, when you send it to your machine, will usually put a very slight rounded corner on, say, a square or a rectangle to avoid that same issue. And of course, if you're really struggling with snagging, lower your speed, which is just here. So you can see you've got a lot more degrees in your speed for your software. Okay. And if you go into more, you're going to find that you have a lot more settings, so you can do things like cut, score, sketch. Stipple is just for the curio. Pop-out cut is where you want to cut without a mat, and basically it leaves it attached to the card by a few little pieces around your design, which is also a really cool way of working. Okay. So I'm just going to close up for now. And then what we can do is we can just go and send that. Okay, now I do just want to double check something, because we've closed and gone back into it. Let's just check our registration is still good to go. Okay, looking good. So we can actually go further into our settings as well, so that we're certain checking everything is going to be cut in the correct order, so you can see that you can actually sort your cut order as well. So I can just close that. Now usually what it will do is it will let me do the print and cut. So let's see if I send it, if it's going to behave. Okay, looks like it's doing the rest. So off we go. Let's do a switch to that one. Okay. So basically what it's done so far is it's done a quick scan of those registration marks, and then it should cut that perfectly. However, sometimes it misbehaves, so I'm just going to stop that for a moment. Now, if ever you get stuck, there's something going wrong, if you pause it, you can go, let me just flick back to display, you can go down to the queue and you can just stop it there. So it hasn't gone in quite the right place where you want it to. And if we were to unpause at this point, this is why making mistakes on live is important, it would carry on cutting in the same place and still going wrong. What you're going to want to do is turn it off and put it back on again. Now at this point it's going to be basically reset as if you just loaded a map, but we can see our mat is still in there. So unload the map, and it might take a couple of buttons presses to get it back out. Okay, and you want to go all the way back out, believe it or not. So it goes okay, and load that back in. There we go. So let's try again. I'm going to close that. And let's go back to display. So you can see our display is reset back to send. Okay, let's try that one again, shall we? Think about it again. That looks a bit more like it. Yeah, switch it off and back on again, or of course it maintenance is, you know, both good options. Yes, she is louder than Cindy. So now you can see why I say she uses strictly a full 9pm machine. Consider when you are getting a silhouette that is frantic. So one of the tricks that I did before that I haven't got since we've had my move around, I might actually is to put some foam underneath. So it kind of softens the sound rather than having it directly toward the surface. And I hope you can hear me. If not, just let me know and I will try and speak a little louder, to say the least. I'll move the microphone. I hope you can hear me a little bit better. So while that's doing that, I'm going to start my mat for the ScanNCut. So, did I manage to pick a new mat? I did manage to pick a new mat. This is going to be fun. So, usually at this point I'd say try and have some tack to be tacked, but this card is quite thick. So I'm going to position that onto my mat. Like so. Now, if you really want a headache, what you can do is have them both going at the same time. And all is quiet, for a little while at least. Time to wake up the ScanNCut, and this is where you really notice the difference between the two. So I'm going to unload the mat from the Silhouette. Usually a case of just catch. Now let's see how we've done. That is not bad at all. So let's pop overhead. And there you go. So Michelle said she'd love to see how I set up the machines on my desk. Okay. So what I actually have in terms of if we were to zoom right out from the overhead shot, is down this side I have a Kallax 8 with the heat press on the end and all my chocolate block stamps being on the DT. It's nice and handy to have them there. And this mess here are all my tools. Believe it or not, that was never intended to be there. And it's because of kind of swamped with work at the moment, so stuff isn't getting back where it should do. My bad. So this weekend, this is getting tidied up. 3-day weekend, yay! Yeah, definitely the noise is the first thing you notice with the Silhouette. Then, in front of me, so this way, because my camera's now, let's straighten up the camera, that way, there we go. I have my Mac over to this side on a double tiered desk. So I have 2 Limon desktops on Ideal legs. Then I have an additional Limon which is just at the back, and that's on Capital legs, which are about 8 centimeters tall, and that just gives enough room to slide the mats underneath, which is where they live. So Mac is on the tabletop that way, Silhouette is that way, so when you see the Silhouette it's right there, nice and handy. Then I have a Kallax 8 to this side, and CM is in that corner with the power supply, and SDX is that way. So that is how it's all kind of set up and good to go. Vinyls are down that way in the Kallax 8. I have my inks that way, so literally everything I use the most often I have right to hand, so that I'm good to go and just easy to create. The easier you can make things accessible, the more you will use them. So that goes for the machines, it goes for the accessories as well. So all the accessories I keep in the SDX storage, whether they are for the SDX or the CM. The Silhouette has room for its spare blade, so that is in there. The only thing that kind of is floating around are things like the Silhouette pen holder, because I've just run out of room in my SDX storage. Okay, so let's pop out these other bits and pieces. There we go. So you know how I was saying about that pop-out cutout? That's pretty much what it's done on these. So I didn't need to necessarily use my mat, and I could have got away without using it. But with printing cut, I feel like the mat's a bit of a safety net. Yeah, so basically it's a big U shape in terms of how I've arranged it all. And it's actually kind of inspired by Jean-Michel Jarre's round keyboard. I don't know if you've seen that. So that was kind of my thinking behind it. So the equivalent of everything is within arm's reach. And for the most part it works really well. There's a few things that kind of get moved. So when you do your setup, don't think, oh, that's it, everything's tidying away and away we go. You'll find that there are some things that you're going to want to just tweak. And let's pop out these little inner bits too. So with the inside bits, you might just need to get a little pokey tool in those. But they are all cut, believe it or not. So you're going to be able to pop those out too. So I think that's really funky. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is keep these in a pile, so that when we come to do the assembly, I'm going to try and keep them separate as well. So this is a really detailed cut, so this might be a bit more tricky to get out. But he's quite happy to cut detail, so it's not that it's not cut it, it's just fiddly in terms of getting my fingers in Okay, so there's a little bit in there that needs to pop out. There we go. So any bits that it has left behind, I'm going to reattach those manually. Okay, now for the bit messed up on up here, so we'll see how it did, whether we can rescue it. Maybe that we can't, which would be a shame, but there we go, round we go. So if I can pull those bits out, then I can, there we go, that one's out. A little bit just in there, that's not bad. So it's just more of these little stems, and as I said, these are just a little bit too fine, but we like to give it a challenge. Okay, so I'm just going to pop those out. There we go. So as I said, with all these little bits of white that are left in there, if you want to, you can just get a pokey tool and those will poke straight out for you. I'm just going to do a little bit of tearing just to get on to the next bit, because I want to show you the ScanNCut. So let's see if we can get you right there. There we go. Sometimes it's easy to work from the back. So number one section, and let's put all those together in that pile there. And I'll also be good and pop my protective sheet back on my mat. So the mat I'm using is official Silhouette one, but I have also the Artistics version, and I also have another one, and it's, I think it's Graphics with an X. How many times have you rearranged things so far? Okay, since the last big move around, not at all, because we planned everything out in a 3D program as best as we could. But prior to that big move around, we had the one where I did the U the other way around, so that basically I was facing this way. But that wasn't working because I had a unit right behind me, so I had literally like a tiny gap to squeeze through. So what I've done is I moved the U up the room, and the unit that was behind me is now underneath the window, and that has most of my storage in. I also have a load of trolleys, so that I can swap around what I'm doing. So I have a day-to-day trolley, which has like my frequently used tools, books, 6x6 pads, all my A6 pre-cut card, coloured pencils, gel pens, and daily notebook. So if you've seen our ScanNCut notebook, one of those that usually lives in there. Then I have another trolley which is all my stamps, stamping equipment and embossing equipment. Then I have a journal one, so that's all my journal stickers, you name it, that's all back journaling. That all goes in there with all my notepads, because I have a thing about notepads and I have far too many. I'm trying to think what's in the bottom of that one actually, that's bad. Yeah, so notebooks in the bottom, then all my adhesives are in that one too. Then I have a mixed media one that has Jane Davenport stuff on top, then all my paints, and then that one has all the Pretty Gets Gritty stuff in it as well, and then all my sketchbooks. So at some point I will put a breakdown of where everything is, so you can go, oh, that's actually really kind of good idea. The only thing that I think I might move is I have a Real Memory Keeper's 12x12 cardstock storage that is currently over in that corner, and I think that needs to go under the heat press because otherwise it's not getting used. So if you find that something's not getting used, what that usually means is it's in the wrong place. So let's flick to Scan and Cut and let's just have a look at the view. It's not too bad. So you can kind of see why it needs tidying now. So I'm going to lower my map. Come on, behave. There we go. Come on, be a good machine. Brand new map. You are not wanting to play ball today, are you? You know why? Because the Silhouette's been having the attention. Okay, so good opportunity to say, well, if you've got that issue, how do you fix it? And the answer is a nail file, which I know is on my desk. I just can't see it. Let's put that there. It just wants me to get this one out of the brain. Do we think Ian's run off with a nail file? Gee, come on. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Prices averted. So let me just flick back overhead. Now, if you see something like, let's see if I can get this to focus. Come on, focus, camera. Focus, focus, focus. Here. Here. There we go. So if you can see something like that where you've got like a little burr and it's looking a little bit black, just attack it with a nail file so that it's smooth. So as long as that bit's smooth, it's good to go. Okay. Check the other side. So just rub your finger across it. If that's smooth, okay. Press your card back down because obviously we've been lifting up corners and things. And take two. And flip back. There we go. See, now it behaves. So, handiest thing to keep on your desk is that nail file. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. It doesn't have to be like a glass one or anything like that. Just go to the pound shop, get a load of them, and keep them somewhere on your desk that are close to hand. So they're also useful for getting rid of burrs off cut things. So if you've got some dies that are particularly intricate, sometimes you can find that you get little stringy bits. Nail file's quite good at getting those. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to try direct cut first. And I'm going to lower my scanner. And we can go start. If it does that, that's because your card's misbehaved. And it's caught the scan glass because it's filling up. Now, the good news is, if it keeps doing that, lift it up into position 2. Go start. It's going to throw wobbly. And say, it's in the wrong position. Tap to go start anyway. And usually you can get at least some sort of scan out of it without having that issue. I may not get everything and everything, but we'll see. But you can see that we've got a scan. So if we go OK, let's see what we've got. So it's missing a little bit out of this here. So out of our reef. So let me see if I can get that bit closer for you. There we go. Just going to lower that down a bit. There we go. But these other bits are also a little bit higgledy-piggledy. But because we've scanned it in that position too, I'm not surprised. So let's see if we darken that down, if that helps. Nope. Let's go the other way then. Okay, well it's obviously found something because it's taking time. It's a bit like tuning the telly. You know, if it's taking longer, it's at least found something. So, feel free to ask questions either on my setup or on Silhouette and things. So now it's gone too far and it's getting every little thing. So that means somewhere between here and here should be our sweet spot. So contrast isn't something I usually go into as much depth about. And that's not doing too bad. It's got a few bits and pieces where it's missed. So things like our little stems here, it's really struggling with. So what I'm going to do is go OK, let that cut out certain things, then I'm going to move the card on the mat. So I'm going to go OK, OK again. Actually, let's go back one, because what I can do is just chop off those bottom bits, make life a little easier. Ignore object size, so we can put those up. And it's going to take out a lot of our noise in the background. I'm going to go OK. Then go OK. It's going to think about it. We can then add an offset. So that will usually fix most issues. And we'll go OK. Then we can go to edit, and then we can delete the things that we don't want to cut. So we don't want that random there. That bit's really not working at the moment, so we can delete that. And anything that we're deleting now, we can always come back and rescan once it's all been cut out. So I'm going to delete that one too. Now these top elements are actually alright, so we can actually cut those out. So you're going to notice straight away we're not going to have the level of detail that we did with the print and cut with the Silhouette. So I'm going to go OK, OK, and we can see those elements there. Now one thing I want to check is just that little bit in there. So if we're going to edit, we can use our little arrow keys to go around our shapes. Just see if we can get those little bits. No, doesn't look like it. So, I'm going to go OK. Let's go to our offset. I'm just going to take it up a little bit more. So, up to 2 mil. So I'm going to just make sure that nothing is touching with our additional offset. I'm going to go OK. Now, sometimes when you go back in, it will sort itself out, but okay, we're going to leave it at 2 and go from And we're going to cut it, and this time, because it's lots of detail, I'm going to use the vinyl blade. Now, I've been cutting a lot of vinyl recently, so you can see that the half cut is on, so just make sure that's turned off. Go back up to your settings, check that your pressure is right for your blade, which in this case it is, and go OK. And let that go. Just want to concentrate on that corner because it's that corner that keeps lifting. Okay, so let's pop that back out now and drop that down slightly and focus over here. There we go. Yeah, so when we first set up the studio in here, we had it around a totally different way. So I only had like one calyx in here and the one unit that's now down by the window and one desk. Yeah, then as we brought more things in, it was like, that's not going to work. So the registration marks that we did in Affinity are if you've actually taken the time to actually trace your cut line so that you can use it to align just using your normal background scan and actually import your SVG. Whereas this way just relies on the actual cut. That hasn't gone away through. What is going on? This is not like my vinyl blade. Especially at -5 because that's already up. I'm not sure what we'll usually put it on. So before you remove it, we're going to go OK. I think I'm going to actually pop my pressure up because of how little it is cut in places, which is a bit weird. There you go. So I have actually changed my blade recently. So what you tend to find is then you can find your settings go a little bit haywire for a bit until you kind of adapt to your new blade. And it is you adapting to the blade, not the other way around. So yeah, yesterday was a bit of an IT issue day. I couldn't even get the blog to behave yesterday. There we go. So when you can hear that it's not cutting anymore, then you know that it's gone through that section. So sometimes you can find that it misses places on your mat. So quite popular one is down the left hand edge. So you can hear it's not really going through much on that side. Just at the top. But the trolley idea is actually really useful because then you just pull over whatever you're doing that day. So So you're kind of customizing your space. So I have a few places where the trolleys can actually kind of move around each other. So that's quite important too, so that it's not too difficult. My laptop doesn't want to connect to the internet. Yesterday or today? Other computers are working though. That is odd. How do you connect to the internet with your laptop? Do you use a Wi-Fi connection, or you're actually using an Ethernet? So, like for instance, we have Ethernet for our power supply, which is quite cool. But it does like to fall over, usually at the most inopportune moment. Wired connections tend to be quicker. So, for instance, through the power Ethernet actually works a lot quicker than if we use the Wi-Fi in here. So, basically, if we're streaming, we will try and go through the Ethernet rather than through the Wi-Fi. But if you look, when we go back to the display, you can see my Wi-Fi is always connected too. So it kind of has that redundancy of falling back on it. Surely it's not going to need a third pass though. But you can just hear that it's still actually cutting paper. So long as you're hearing that, you know that it needs it. Can you believe? I think I must have picked up like the industrial strength card. It's only the one kind of edge to the shapes. So let's pull that off. Let's get these. So we can see that we've got much bigger edge having to go down the direct cutting route than if you're using print and cut. I might see if I can sort out that print quickly, just so you can see the difference. Okay, so I'll tidy that up in a minute. Now, what you're also going to see is that we've still got a centre section in here too. So that's something that we need to address. So given I'm going to use direct cut, what I'm actually going to do is I am going to chop into the card. So let's briefly swap over here. Like so. And I'm going to do that bit first. So let's stick that up there for now. So let's switch back to that one. I moved it in so I'm within an inch from the mat. Try and make sure that anything that is sticking up on that top edge is stuck down. So as these bits didn't work on level 2 before, we're going to drop down that scan glass. We're going to go OK, home to reset, scan, direct cut, machine, and off we pop. Now if it still doesn't work with it at this setting, then what you can do is switch across to colour. Oh dear, power cuts. Is that because you've had storms or? You have some other kinds of issues. Okay, so we can see it's not quite worked as well as we want it to. It's seeing our outside cut edge more than it's seeing our actual flowers. so that isn't going to necessarily work for us. We can try doing our contrast, and we'll go in the same direction as before because the light should be pretty similar, and you can see actually no, it can't distinguish. So at this point we'll go no, we're going to reset, okay, go back to direct cut, back to the machine. This time we're going to go into the settings and change the colour. So I always say that black and white and colour are a bit of a kind of mismatch for terms. What it should really be is high contrast and low contrast. So colour is your low contrast. Let's tweak that back up there, just a little bit. There we go. So I'm just going to move those in. So your colour scan settings are going to look a bit different. Okay, so we've got a better outline for our flowers, but our stems are still a little bit sketchy. So let's see if we can help that out a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go okay. Let's go into our outline and do our offset. Okay, that's looking a lot better, but we need to get rid of these bits around here. So I'm going to go okay, go into edit, and I'll do that manually rather than trying to use our ignore object size, because otherwise I think what we would do, because we've got a lot of diagonal pieces, is we'd actually lose our actual flowers first before we lost those little bits around the outside. So having the opportunity to edit it manually like this is really good. So we can go around our shapes using our arrow keys. Okay. Okay. And hopefully this time it should go around and cut that a bit better. I don't mind tidying up a few cuts while I wait. There we go. Whew. Over here, there we go. There we go. I stopped fiddling now. I must. So yes, the Silhouette does make print and cut so much easier, so I do prefer it for that. Just because it has that automatic recognition without having to manually trace. But I did also do a trace in Illustrator yesterday to go with the ScanNCut link, which again would be quicker. So using direct cut, you can see that we've lost a little bit. So if I just go back overhead, come on, there we go. So we lost a little just there, and you can see even the camera's struggling to pick up the difference. Is it going to be noticeable in your finished project? No. Not unless you know it's there. Now this one on the other hand, where it's actually cut into it, what you might want to do is either make sure you layer your flower over the top, which is probably what I'll do. Or you might want to work with it slightly differently. Okay. So I was aiming to get the text done today as well, but ScanNCut's taken a bit longer than I expected it to. So I will briefly show you how to do the registration mark, but I'm also going to show you what can go wrong if you haven't got it set up quite right. So I'm going to pop my card onto the mat. Lines to the top. So if I go back to the ScanNCut, so you can see line at the top there. And then let's go back to Illustrator and to Display. So you can see here that it hasn't actually cut off the bottom at all. So it's just my laser is having a really dense day and not printing it for whatever reason. So let's see if it'll work. I don't think it will. I'm going to go into the ScanNCut link and we can transfer it via the internet. So you can still export the FCM with those registration marks. Just be aware that only the SDX can read them, which seems a bit daft, but yeah, it is what it is. So first of all, actually, stop. See, Natty. Important thing to do. Hide your print layer and put your cut layer in. There we go. Now we do it. Just gonna think about it. So this is it converting it to SVG, which is what it will do first, to then take that SVG and convert it to FCM. So it does add a little bit of time to the process to if you were doing it directly in Canvas, but not very much normally. And what you'll probably find is in a bit it will go, there's small bits and they're automatically removed, and it's like, yep, that's fine. So while that's doing that, I'm just going to flip back to overhead so I can keep an eye on comments. Hi Tanya. Okay, so let's go back to that one and back to display. So objects that have been set to hidden, so in other words all our print layer, not available to export or transfer. You'll also notice that the registration marks have gone away on the FCM, so up in the top here and across and down. Now, it does that because they don't work with the CM. So if you export the FCM file, what you're going to find is that you end up having to re-export it with no registration marks, even though they're not showing. It's very bizarre. So I'm going to go OK. That's absolutely fine. Don't need to worry about it. And we go OK. So at this point, it's going to send it across the Wi-Fi as normal. So even when you're just creating it in Illustrator without worrying about printing cut, you can still go down this route without having the registration mark faff going on. Okay. And when we go back to the ScanNCut, and just hop back to Streamlabs so I can see comments. I'm going to go back up to the screen. There we go. Retrieve data works the same way. and we'll go Wi-Fi. Now what's interesting is what happens next. And you'll see your design, you go OK. And it goes, right, put the material with the registration marks on. Make sure the lines of the registration marks are on the mat, mostly. So then we can go, OK, what do you want to do? So you still have all the same options of doing your cut, your draw, your foiling. If you want to foil with the foil quill instead, you can use that draw function. You can emboss, and if I go down, you can even pierce using Illustrator. So it does work slightly differently in that obviously you haven't set your dot spacing and things like that, but you can do it. So if we go to cut, so next what you can do is you have two options. You can either go, yep, my marks are printed correctly and I know it's going to do it and I've already done this 20,000 times, and go start. Okay, or you might be like more like the print I've got now and go, well, actually there's something a bit wrong with the registration marks. I just want to check that they work. So up in the top corner here, you can see it's got a bit of a weird icon. So we've got our scan bar that we usually see for like our background scan. It's got the 4 dots. So that's where it's going to scan those registration marks. So we can tap to go. Okay. Let's try that again. Load the mat. Lift that canvas and off we go. Do. Here it goes. Now I'm expecting it to throw a hissy fit at this moment. Yeah. So where it says failed to recognise registration marks, that is purely because, if I take this off the mat so you can see it better, that happened. So if you have that on your print area, what you need to do is actually just reprint that page. Okay, so when you have that warning, that's what's wrong. So let's go back to Illustrator, pop you on display. Come on, there we go. I'm going to hide the cut line again and reveal the print, because we don't want to print the cut line. Now, I want the side that I want to print face up in my manual feed, so the blank side. That's going to wake the printer up. Okay, and we are going to go to print. Now if we look in here, we can see that our registration marks are right on that edge. But what we can do is we can actually move our print. So as long as your print area surrounds your registration marks rather than going through them, you should be alright. You don't have to worry about necessarily getting it perfectly centre. So that should be okay. I'm going to go to setup, and Illustrator's going to throw a wobbly. Just tick don't show again and continue, because I know what I can set in here. Just make sure that your printer is set up correctly for your thicker card. Tap the print. Print. Now this is where I leg it back across the printer, because it just needs a little bit of helping hand because the card is thicker. So for those of you that missed yesterday, I'm working on a 280 GSM card through my laser printer. If you're interested in knowing the model, it's a Brother HLL3230 CDW. And we go. Back to overhead. Back to Streamlabs so I can see what I'm doing. And we now have our registration marks all correct and present. I only have the cut and draw functions on my options. Do I have to get a kit and activate it to have the others? No. You can activate your premium functions in your settings. Particularly the foil option, because then if you're using a slow drying pen, you use that instead and it draws from the bottom up, so that's really important one. So especially if you're using your 3D Fun Prints pen holder, you have access to lots of new pens that you won't put in the Brother one. So you can get things like fine tipped acrylic pens that will work in there. Your metallic paint pens, so your oil-based ones, the shake and pump and all that business, you would use your foil setting for. And also things like your quickie glue pen or slow drying gel pens, you would use that for too. So that is just in your premium functions in settings when you're on your home page. So now we can do a double check again, or we can just go for it. So let's go. We've already sent the file, so we don't have to resend it. Nothing is moved on the mat, so that's the important thing. Make sure that you haven't moved anything on your mat in Illustrator. Just gonna think about it. And off it goes. So let's adjust that down. So whereas your silhouette will actually go and scan each registration mark separately with the actual cutting head, because it's got scan glass, the ScanNCut's just literally going to scan the whole mat, find the registration marks, and off it will go, and it will do all of that for you. Now it's saying that this cut is going to take 16 minutes, and I'm sure you don't want to be bored watching this cut for 16 minutes. So what I will do is actually go for now, and then I will pop up a photo with all the elements cut out. So bear in mind these are all going to cut flush, same as with the silhouette ones, so that you're going to have that centre hole taken out. To take the centre hole out of a direct cut, you just need to move that scan area so it kind of fits within the printing here, so then it sees that as something that needs to go. It's the way that we trick it. But you can just leave it like that and then layer up your elements over the top if you want to. So we didn't quite get on to curving text today, but you can do that quite easily in either Canvas, Illustrator, Affinity or Silhouette. It's really up to you which you want to go with. But I will try and do a little short video showing the text on a curve, just because it is a good one to learn, and maybe try and do a reel with that and pop it up on Insta too. But yes, you need to play with your different paint pens in much the same way as you play with different Sharpies and things, because at the end of the day they give you more options to play with. So in terms of what you can do with your ScanNCut and your silhouettes for that matter, if you want to foil onto vinyl, yes you can. If you want to use Sharpies onto clear vinyl, again, yes you can. We did a project where we even did like a little bit of alcohol blending onto clear vinyl, and that worked really well using the Sharpie pen holder. If you want to work onto Yopo, you can put that in your ScanNCut. Basically, if it's under 3mm, you can put it into your ScanNCut and draw on it. And that's for the SDX. When it comes to the CM range, you are limited to under 2mm, and the Silhouette, I believe, is under 4mm. So that is the main differences between the three machines that I have here, is the depth that they can go to. Obviously the Silhouette doesn't scan in the traditional way, but you can still use a flatbed scanner with it, so it's not like there is no scan function, it just works differently. So it's easier if you do things like scanning the mat. So the pick scan mats, I think, are still out of stock at the moment, but I am waiting to get one so that I can actually show that on stream. If you can, when you're, I'm just going to pause that for a minute. That is actually about the way. If you can, between actually printing and cutting, just let your card rest and flatten out a bit, because it's just catching a bit at the moment. So I'm just going to pause that for a second while I just get that in there. So it's important to note, I did pause the ScanNCut before doing that, and just have something like a palette knife or your spatula to just get in underneath and just kind of smooth that all down. Try and stick to a metal one because of the depth of it. So if you try and do that with a plastic one, you'll be kind of catching rollers and things like that, which we don't want to do. So any questions before I go, either about the Silhouette or the software or the ScanNCut and its software or Affinity or Illustrator, but if there's no questions I will call it a day. So there's about a 30-second delay between me saying that and when you hear it, and then I've got to give you time to type, so hopefully round about now, if there's anything, it should pop up. But if not, I will say ta-ra, and I will try and do that a little bit of a video. I'm not actually going live on Pretty Gets Gritty this week, so it will be a case of I will probably see you on Friday. But this time I want to do something with some stamping, so it's been a while since we've done some stamping. So maybe I'll be doing something with the Silhouette and ScanNCut with stamping. Take care and have fun for the rest of the day, and I'll look forward to seeing you Friday, so that'll be Friday at 12. Bye for now.